Wanted to give a little shout out to Marlos, who is a board member who is also retiring this year and has also been involved for 10 years. He's not here today, but he might be out there watching. Okay. I know everyone has their individual journeys, but what was it that started you off? Let's go to you first, Douglas.
Mine is it's personal experience growing up in Matar Islam. Most kids, or rather while growing up in Matar Islam, I didn't have access to education and opportunities, and it's what that led me to co-found Oasis Madai. So just giving a personal story is that after finishing primary education, I didn't go straight to high school, so I stayed for almost like 2 years because my parents could not afford the school fees to take me to high school. But even those days that I was in primary school, I spent a better part of my school days at home as a result of school fees. Although in Kenya, primary school is free, but kids or parents are asked to pay things such as scholastic materials. So I did spend a better part of my school days at home. There are no libraries around. And then after going to high school, it was the same story. But after clearing high school, there's this series that I used to watch. It's called 24. And there was this guy. So the series I used to watch it to my friend, or from my friend's place. And there's this guy who was really good with computers, and he was hacking everyone. I was like, that's a really good idea. But anyway, it sort of like sparked an interest in technology. I learned how to do some basic web development, learned PHP, and then the trajectory really changed, and I started getting some gigs, some jobs, and I was like an average student, because I was an average student. If I was an average student and I can be able to do this cool stuff with computers, and I can earn a livelihood, what about those who are in Matar Islam? So that's how the idea started. So we used to do it once a week, like Saturdays, and now I'm doing it full time.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for sharing.
I wholeheartedly support what Liam says and what Rachel's saying. When we first started the dojos, I didn't know anything, so I had to start with and from scratch. And I've learned so much over the last decade, and Python doesn't scare me. I can't write it, but it doesn't scare me anymore. So and looking back at my own journey and seeing what the children, the ninjas, are experiencing at dojos and clubs, that's what we do it for. So.
Thank you so much.
One of the biggest challenges that we face, or rather in Africa, Global South, is access to hardware, that is computers, and connectivity, that is internet. At Oasis Madai, we have built a community network, and we are on a mission to connect all the households that are in informal settlements, especially in Nairobi, with affordable internet. And at the moment, what we have done, we have deployed 10 public hotspots free, and we have connected schools as well as few households that can pay. But for the free services, we have partnered with organizations or companies who are willing to advertise. So for someone to use free services, and these actually are specifically the students whom we are targeting. So they can access free internet by, first of all, doing maybe some surveys. Their parents can do that, or they want some ads, short video, 3 seconds, could be 2 minutes, and then they access internet, or they pay equivalent of 10 cents for. I did actually speed test for the internet that we are getting here. It was ranging between 80 to 110 Mbps. And believe you me not, I don't know if that's correct English, but we have exactly the same in Matar Islam. And now people who are, or ISP who are providing internet, the cheapest is 5 Mbps, and they are charging approximately 1,500 shillings. That should be, I don't know the conversion, but it's ridiculously expensive for underprivileged communities. We believe that internet is an equalizer, or technology is an equalizer, but if they don't have access to it, then we are doing them injustice. So what we're having is we ensure that everyone have access to internet.
That's
It's brilliant you're able to provide it free for so many people. Really good.
Equal access has been through Coolest projects actually. When I was involved with the I Belong project, which some of you may have heard of from the National Centre for Computing Education, where there's a kind of big drive to get more girls taking GCSE computer science. And I was quite interested in this idea that most of the girls in my code clubs were pretty good programmers, and I thought, well, for the first time ever, I had a girls-only code club, and they were handpicked because I thought I'm going to take this group of girls to Coolest projects to see if I can raise their self-efficacy and their self-confidence and their belief in the fact that they do belong in computer science. Because they were brilliant. So they were handpicked from children that had attended Code Club previously, but they were, to give you a bit of context for our primary school, we have 24% are SEN, we have 8% on EHCPs, which in this country just means that you really do have severe educational disadvantage. And we have 42% are EAL. We are in one of the poorest wards, socio-economically deprived wards in the country. So it might be in leafy Hertfordshire, but definitely not in that area of Stevenage. So I picked these girls, got the permissions, we got the funding to get to Coolest projects in Bradford, which was fantastic. And the girls came away absolutely buzzing. They were just so overwhelmed with the whole process of collaborating together. So they really supported each other well. Our code club sessions were quite calm, actually, in comparison to when we had boys there. I've gone back to mixed, though, I have to say. Yeah, they absolutely loved it, and they used words like it was really inspiring, and I felt really confident, and I loved explaining. And more than that, they just loved seeing what other people had done. So that kind of wider audience for them. And I just think that really built them up in a way that I'd not seen before. So it was brilliant.
I love it.
You run a dojo, so not a school-based club, which could be sort of closed-off environment, but an open club. There's parents coming in with their children for the dojo. Get those parents to start mentoring. Buy them pizza once or twice a year. It's quite obvious. Say thank you. You can't say thank you often enough. And be approachable, and if you show the fun in it, your passion, they'll show it as well. And I think that's what happened. And as I said this earlier today, I don't think I've ever done anything consciously concerning Go to Dojo. It just happened, and now I'm reflecting and thinking, okay, it's the pizza.
Lots of people love pizza. Not everyone, but lots and lots of people.
Yeah, if you'd asked me this question 2 days ago, I think I probably would have given a completely different answer. But after attending Mr. C's and Dale's workshops here, I've learned so much in just the last couple of days that I've had to really think about this again. But I think critical thinking is always going to be the key when it comes to kids and using AI. Being able to recognise that it's a tool for them to use. It's not a thing that they need to listen to all the time and take for completely for granted. We've actually developed some unplugged AI workshops that we run in schools, generally for primary school age, sort of year 5 and year 6. And I ran these a few weeks ago, and probably the most troubling thing that came out of it was there's one point where I show them 2 photos of two men. In some ways they're very similar, and in some ways they're completely different. And we talk about how for us it's absolutely easy to recognise the differences, but a computer will see them in a totally different way and might not understand. And there was one boy who said, "Why did I use 2 AI-generated photos instead of real photos?" And I said, "They are real photos." And he would not believe it. He just kept saying, "His face is too shiny." And he just wouldn't have it. Everything I said, like, he would not believe me that they were 2 real photographs. And I found that really, really troubling that we're already at a stage where kids can't believe their own eyes and they don't know what's true and what isn't. So I think, and particularly as a librarian, as an information professional, yeah, this does go way beyond AI into just generally critical thinking of any sort of media, especially social media, which is probably way worse than AI at the moment. I don't know if you've been seeing the new Sora videos that are coming out, but I've already been tricked multiple times by lots of videos that are AI generated that I didn't realise. So yeah, doing everything we can do to make kids take a step back, realise that AI is a tool, and how can we verify, how do we go about verifying that information is correct, and that it's really down to them at the end of the day. They need to be having a better understanding of the information that's coming to them.
Thank you very much. Rachel, I'll go to you first.
My first answer was time, but I know that's not possible. So when I thought about it again, I thought actually having you or STEM ambassadors or somebody come in to visit the club would be really useful, because one of the things that I discovered when I had an inspection back in February is that the children find it very difficult to articulate their learning, to talk about what they've learned and how they've learned it or what helps them, things like that. So I've done a lot more of that, and when we were preparing for Coolest projects, I said you're going to have to talk about your project, and you have to explain, you know, what you did and why you did it, and they found that really, really challenging. So we did it with our link governor. He came in and talked to them, and we did it. We presented in front of a class, we presented in front of the whole school and an assembly. And the more they did it, the more confident they became and the more articulate they became and the more they actually expressed what the project was about and what they'd learned and that sort of thing. So, in a way that they don't explain it to me. You know, if they know you and they're comfortable with you, they're either trying to tell you what they think you want to hear, or they just go, oh yeah, it was great, loved it. But yeah, if they're explaining it to a stranger, I discovered that that's actually where they start to begin to unpick. So having Raspberry Pi people come and visit, or finding people who will come and visit us would be brilliant.
Love that.
Plus, can I just add in? Scratch snap cards. Anybody who's in the unplugged session this morning will know what I mean.
Right, Liam, did you want to chip in on that?
One of them is very selfish, and then one of them is something that would be useful, I think, for everyone. Actually, going back to the question about volunteers, I think what would be really useful certainly for libraries would be some sort of volunteer toolkit. I know we've had volunteers who've come from tech companies who have in their head, they imagine they're turning up to like a classroom of kids that are all desperate to learn Python instead of a bunch of 7-year-olds who are just there to muck about and have fun. So I think if we had something that was testimonials from existing volunteers, how everyone has gone about actually successfully getting those volunteers, something that, yeah, it would be useful for libraries, but also be useful when we're going out and speaking to people and trying to get them interested to manage their expectations a little bit better. That would be very, very useful. And then my selfish one, so those of you who were at my talk earlier, was about creating a collaborative platform game in Scratch. We've now talked about this has now become a global game that we want to do, so if anyone wants to be involved, any co-club around the UK, around the world, it'd be great to get you involved. We'll try and make one massive platform game, but I do realise I think I may have bitten off a little bit more than I can chew. So if Raspberry Pi Foundation could possibly help me facilitate that in some way, that would be amazing.
All right, no promises, maybe. All right, okay, I'm gonna move on. So we are almost at the end of Club's conference, as you know. I'm going to start with Douglas on that one.
I think let me answer the previous question, because I know my African Union friends will not be happy if I don't say this, but one thing that Raspberry Pi Foundation can support us, especially as from the Global South, is I know it's not sustainable, but financial, because we do not have access to, like I mentioned, access to hardwares and internet, and having sort of like a buffer for maybe 2 years, 3 years until we figure it out, or have a sustainable model, will do us justice. The conversation that I've had, particularly, I'm not going to mention names because I'm really terrible with names, but I've taken some of the contact that we are going to be having some virtual sessions with their code clubs. Yeah.
I think that was in Peterborough, maybe. I think. Is the Peterborough still here?
Almost
Yeah.
unfair.
Yeah. Okay, amazing. How about you, Rachel?
I had a really interesting discussion and conversation about inclusion in computing, and I don't know why I haven't thought of this before, but I'm going to go away and make a social story for our code club, which will show pictures of the space, the routines, what we do to support those children who need that sort of support when they come into the space.
Great, I love that. I'm sure some people have done that before and I've seen them, so maybe this is the moment to say you don't have one and someone might come and find you afterwards and say, here's what we did. I love it. Liam, would you like to answer that too?
I think the AI stuff was really interesting to me, particularly because again I don't really have a background in that. We do deliver these unplugged sessions, but they're much more around discussions, and so there's no real right or wrong answers. So being able to hear Mark and hear Dale show some really good examples of how to get those messages across about how to differentiate between what is AI and what is computing and what is, it just making stuff up or just predicting words and things like that. That's going to be really, really useful. But then the other thing I'm definitely going to take away, can you hold the mic just for 1 second? Clap on so if you can hear me. So that, if anyone didn't go to the Pico session, you might not understand why we just did that. But in a way of getting everyone to shut up and listen, I'm using that in every single code group that I go to. So I found I don't know if she's still here, but thank you very much for that one.
We go back to Coolest Projects again last year, which was had such a huge impact, but particularly for one child called Isabel. She never managed to present her project to the link governor, her class. She could not do it in assembly. But at Coolest Projects, she was spoken to by the judges, and obviously she did respond. I was hovering in the background thinking, am I going to have to prompt? But I didn't. And then she was one of the judges' picks, and she went up on stage at the end, and honestly, I could barely hold it together. And when I spoke to her afterwards, she said, well, the judges were so kind, I didn't feel scared. So thank you. And then at the end of the year, she made me this. So it's a little computer, but even the keys have sort of touch, and a little message in there. And I just thought, it was just such a huge impact. I felt very proud of her and what she'd achieved. And her parents afterwards said to me that they felt that was the first time she had been seen.
Our proudest moment this year is one of our code club alumni gave me a call at some time, August, in one of my lowest time, and he told me that he got a job with one of the biggest telecom company in Uganda. He's called Brian Ahuga. Brian Ahuga was our code club, he joined our code club, and then later on, he joined our software engineering program. We do that for youths who are in Mazarslam for 1 year, and then he was involved with one of the projects that we were doing for DW, that is Deutsche Academy. It's a German media organization, and he was heavily involved in that project. And later on, he got a job with MTN this year. So, I mean, from being from joining Code Club, joining our program, a software engineering program, and working with a telecom company in Uganda. That is, and now he's just joining a university doing a distance learning.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing.
You might have seen this story, this impact story. It's about two young boys at the time, 11, 12 years old, who stayed at the dojo for a very long time, and then when they turned 18, they wanted to stay on and become mentors. It's Arno's and Timo's story. It's on the website, on the Raspberry Pi website, and that is absolutely the
It's
best.
definitely worth a watch. I've seen it many times, and every time I go, no, I still really want to concentrate on this.
Yeah.
But definitely worth a watch.
Still cry when we see
A
it.
little bit, yeah. Thank you. All right, Liam.
So my story is about another young person. I'm going to change their name because it's a bit sensitive and I don't have their permission or whatever. But so I met Sam probably about 10 years ago, not long after I started in libraries, and it was one of the first code clubs that I'd supported. And Sam was very, very quiet, very shy, to the point where I actually thought they weren't really enjoying themselves. But I spoke to his mum, and his mum was, no, he really does love it. He just struggles to get across, and he's troubles at school. And he's an absolute whiz kid, basically, at coding as well. That's why he really loved coming. At that time, I was a library assistant, so co-clubs wasn't part of my role. I would just go and support during the school holidays, basically. So I saw Sam a few times over the next couple of years, in summer holidays and Easter holidays and so on. And he was obviously getting more comfortable, coming out of his shell a bit. I still remember the first time I made him laugh at one of my terrible jokes, which is one of the most proudest moments as well. I eventually became a librarian, and I started running a co-club and got to know him a little bit more, till he got to about 13, when by that age, he was really happy at the sessions, talking to people, had made friends. At that stage, we didn't really have anything for 13 or 16-year-olds after that, so he did drift away. We're trying to launch some new teen co-clubs next year, but I didn't hear from Sam again for probably 6 years, until I got an email in the summer. So Sam is now Sophie, and Sophie has just started a new job at one of the local tech companies, and was just wanting to say thank you.
That's okay.